Hello, beautiful and wonderful people. Welcome once again to my YouTube channel. My name is Beatrice Kimpi. This is the space where we get empowered, impacted, inspired to live our great God-given lives. Anything about marriage, parenting, motherhood, health, finance, uh, beauty and fashion. If this is the kind of content that you're interested in, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, share, comment, hit the notification bell so that every time the video is up, you are notified. Today we are going to be talking about a very wonderful topic, intimacy in marriage, but from a man's perspective. And to discuss this together with me, I've been joined by a wonderful friend of mine called Mr. Kaketo James. Mr. James has been married for 7 years and is a father to 3 wonderful boys.
My name is James Kaketo. I've been happily married for the last 7 years to my wife, Tiva Kaketo. And within those 7 years, we've been blessed with 3 wonderful boys, 6 years, 4 years, and 3 years. I'm happy to be here and share my experiences so far on issues of intimacy, parenting, and marriage.
Mr. James, what is intimacy in itself?
Intimacy, based on my understanding, is that emotional connection between two people. Yeah. The one that gives a feeling of attachment to an individual, having a feeling of being attached to another, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in different ways. Okay. So it's that feeling of having a certain trust and attachment and a sense of reliability with someone, a sense of connection, a sense of feeling that they are your life partner, that they are their close friend, that they are someone that you can rely on, and you have that sense of accountability to them. Yeah.
And how is this intimacy important in marriages? Because we believe that one of the reasons for failures of marriages these days is lack of intimacy. People were intimate at the beginning, and then right now they are not. What are some of the causes of lack of intimacy?
Yeah, thank you, Beatrice. First of all, there are about 4 or 5 different types of intimacy. Yeah. One, we have emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, spiritual intimacy, and physical intimacy. And so these really mean different things and apply differently across men and women. Yeah, but so emotional intimacy basically looks at that feeling of emotional attachment to someone. Emotional intimacy are those, should I call them butterflies that people feel when they are still newly in love. They have that emotional connection. They feel their heart is attached to someone else, and they feel that sense of, those feelings they have, or they are in love, they're in love with someone. That really is emotional intimacy. And then intellectual intimacy is more or less more to do with the brain or the mind, where you share similar views or certain views with someone. You're basically able to sit down with your wife or your husband and discuss issues around different topics about life. It could be academics, it could be views about society, about politics, about businesses, about finances, or having discussion about which school your children will go, or what careers the two of you should take. This doesn't involve any feelings, but it's really more having an intellectual, and that also brings a certain level of intimacy, knowing that I can have this discussion or build something with the person. The other type of intimacy has to do with the spiritual lives, and that concerns being able to pray with someone or read the Bible together with your spouse, and you're going to church together or serving in the ministry together. You're basically having a similar spiritual connection towards God. The other type of intimacy is the experiential intimacy, where you have experiences together as a couple, or as husband and wife, like going for vacations, having adventures, taking walks. That also brings another sense of intimacy with someone, because you're adventuring with the same person, and out of that adventure, memories are created. of when you went for your vacation, or you went to watch the sunset, or you went to do some sports event, or you went to the gym together. You're sharing experiences, and all that contributes to the intimacy. And lastly is the physical intimacy, where one of them could be having sex with your husband and wife, or holding hands, or holding your wife's waist, or being physically connected, or sitting together. That also brings a sense of intimacy. So over the course of marriage, and depending on the sex or the gender, there are certain needs, some of these areas of intimacy, change, or they grow, or they reduce, depending on the journey that you're walking, throughout marriage. But most importantly is that because men are largely physical beings, they have a less bar in terms of emotional intimacy. So normally women that are emotional people, they want to be able to pour out their emotions to their husband, and the husband is also expected to understand. For example, when you talk about emotional intimacy, it's where you're free to share your highs and lows in life, or your silly stuff with your spouse, and also expect them to understand you. It involves being more of a listener than a responder. So someone should be able, in the area of emotional intimacy, to share with you their worst experiences, their crazy, stupid feelings, and expect you to listen and to understand, rather than being quick to respond. And so emotional intimacy at some point reduces, or because different things come in, children, career, life, pursuit of different things, family, children have come in, and now the focus shifts on family. So it's important for couples to be intentional and deliberate about these areas of intimacy. Yeah, so in most relationships, or in most marriages, normally the emotional intimacy is most affected, because it's highly dependent on people's feelings. And feelings naturally, depreciate with time, unless you're very intentional about them. So they naturally depreciate. So it's important that for couples to communicate about their levels of intimacy, or how they feel their intimacy levels are in their marriage, so that the other person is able to respond and be intentional. But then also, it is natural that these different areas of intimacy get affected along the marriage. If it is, for example, physical intimacy, couples might become less attracted to one another, or maybe the wife or the husband feels that the wife is no longer attractive as they used to before, and then the physical intimacy, or the gets affected. That attachment, gets affected. Or if it is intellectual intimacy, and then
we can never have
a conversation about finances, or someone is talking about the global economy, or what's going on in Europe right now, and then the other person is unable to actually understand or connect. Or someone talk about the interest rates, the employment rates, or inflation, and someone is unable to understand. And we're not saying that we are supposed to be interested in the similar subjects, but it's about being able to talk about certain things, with someone, and they're able to to connect, even when they are not technically in their area of expertise. So one of the ways to really, for couples to keep their intimacy levels, first of all, is have to acknowledge that things won't be on autopilot, that changes happen. And once you acknowledge that changes happen, then it helps you to be deliberate and intentional about keeping these intimacy levels. For example, if it is emotional intimacy, the wife might feel that the husband is no longer taking care of, listening to her, understanding her, and then the husband has to put in effort to say, okay, I need to be deliberate about listening to her and understanding, not being quick to provide solutions or to prescribe things, but first of all, needing me to listen and understand. But then also, we also have to understand that we have weaknesses, that's acknowledging that each person has weaknesses, and that they don't necessarily have to level up to me or to each other all the time. They have weaknesses, but my role is to understand that and also support them in that process. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. You've brought it up so well, because some of us in marriage, we don't even know that there are types of intimacy. People, when they talk about, by mere mention of the word intimacy, they immediately think about the physical one. They don't know that there's intellectual, there's experimental, there's spiritual. And thank you, because you said there's need to develop them, right? There's need to develop them. That is very good. And what I want you to help us with is to bring to light, from a man's perspective, what is intimacy? Because for us women, like most women are, when you talk about intimacy from their perspective, they only think of the emotion. And so there is that great divide in a marriage where the man feels, my wife is not intimate with me, and they are not on the same page. For him, he means maybe intellectual. The lady is into emotion. So what is the perspective of intimacy from a man's perspective?
Yeah, that's a very question, a good question, and I believe it's something that many couples struggle with.
Yeah.
And when you look at the different types of intimacy that we've listed, it's important to understand that men and women fall differently or variably along those areas of intimacy. So, and also men are not very emotional human beings, although emotional intimacy is a core part of the relationship or marriage. Men are not very emotional. Men are so much of intellectual and physical, and they are into discussing things and moving things. So because men are very physical, and they look more at solving life's problems, solving the world's problems, being Superman.
Yeah.
So to me, men want someone who really supports their vision, who really connects with their vision. They may not really be part of the operational bit of things, but they want someone who connects with their vision, and they support them in running with that vision. If it is building a family business, they want a wife who supports that process. She may not be involved in running it, but she has his back, and she's cheering him on. And then also, men want someone who is in charge of the home, who takes care of the affairs of the home, and they feel, I'm not around, but the kids are being being taken care of, or the home is being taken care of, even in my absence. Or the children are being, raised appropriately by their mother. But also going a little bit more into the physical bit of things, because men are physical things, and they want their physical needs, especially sex, to be met. It's not that women's sexual needs are not important, but men by nature, their frequency of desiring sex is much more than it is, and it is biological, because the body has to release all the time, so their sexual needs are higher than women. And so that's an area of intimacy that sometimes women don't understand, and they assume that I meet the needs, yet the needs are not being met. But also, it is important for the couples, I should mention, to be open to communicate. In the absence of communication, then you leave things to assumption. And there's a saying that assumption is the mother of disappointment. If you assume things, then you think that you're meeting someone's intimacy needs, yet actually not being met. So it's important that couples be intentional about communicating often about their intimacy needs, and say, okay, I feel this is missing, I feel this has reduced, I feel this is lacking. Can you support me better in this area? So that they are able to do what? To improve and work to exactly all the time.
That is very good. Ladies, you've heard. To me, if I can summarize those points from a man's perspective, intimacy is someone being a helper, and also being physically present, right?
Yes.
And so we've taken notes, ladies, that men, from their perspective, intimacy is support, being, helpful, and also satisfying their sexual desires. Thank you so much, Mr. Kaketo. This has been a wonderful conversation, an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much. I believe our viewers have learned a lot. Myself, I've learned a lot, because sometimes as women, we get stuck in our own cocoon. As long as you don't understand me, I'll not understand you. You're telling me I should, go and take care of some affairs, intellectual affairs like the business, or I should go and see if the land is doing well. And me, all I'm stuck on is, you're not calling me, you're not sending me a message, you're not taking me out. So we need to be on those levels where we understand our men, that for them, support and physical, meeting their physical desires is intimacy.
Yeah, and if I may add on, is that absence of intimacy leads to withdrawal. When someone's intimacy needs are not being met, they withdraw, and sometimes bringing them back might be a challenge. You realize that there's no more connection, but just living. The couple is just living one day as it comes, day in, day out, take care of the children, and that's it. Or go to work, come back, then wake up and go back to bed. So there happens to be sometimes a sense of withdrawal from the woman. She becomes less dependent on you emotionally. She no longer shares with you her feelings or things that are bothering her either as a person or at home. You no longer listen. You're quick to give solutions instead of just listening to understand and for them. Sometimes when I just want someone who will just listen to whatever they have to say and understand, even if it's not giving solutions, but just listen and allow her to pour out. Or a man might choose to just go on with his pursuits and cease involving you, letting you know what they're doing, because you're not supporting, you're not giving any input. Yeah, so that's the point where withdrawal comes. But the important thing is for couples to have this self-awareness that things naturally change if left in autopilot, and be active and deliberate about meeting those intimacy needs of their spouse.
Thank you so much. This has been part of the conversation, of the long conversation we had with Mr. Kaketo about a variety of topics. And if you want to continue in this conversation, please be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can catch the rest of the conversation next week. Bye-bye.